Welcome back to the AI-enabled GTM. I'm Stu Schmidt, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Gary Gilchrist, founder of Iceberg AI Consulting. Gary is a seasoned sales executive and entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience scaling SaaS and MarTech ventures, including 5 successful exits. So what are you doing here exactly if you've had 5 successful exits? But great to have you here, Gary. Gary's a thought leader in AI-enabled sales transformation and has helped B2B sales organizations integrate in AI into their go-to-market strategies, delivering measurable revenue impact. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And by the way, make sure you hang with us to the end of today's show because Gary has a special offer for you. All right. So Gary, with your background, I mean, you've seen it all in go-to-market. You've had almost every role there is, all the way up to CEO. So what spurred your interest and focus on AI, and what are you up to now? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Stu, firstly, thank you for having me on today. You and I go way back, and
Yes.
It's always good to reacquaint with people that you truly admire, and you're one of those people. Thank you, Stu.
Well, thank you for that. And don't use the word decades.
Okay, I will not.
Go ahead.
No, okay. So, yeah, it's a good question. I was a sort of a a serial startup guy, really, helping grow organizations. And about 2 years ago, I had kind of had a realization with what was going on in the marketplace that AI was going to be really the game changer. So in a way, I kind of reinvented myself a little bit, but using obviously my 25 years worth of experience. So it became quite clear that even today, and this was 2 years ago, that people really don't know what they don't know when it comes to AI. So I think people will implement AI. Yes, we need to buy AI tools, but then behind closed doors, they'll kind of admit that they're not really sure what it does and how it best it can be used. So I set up Iceberg AI Consulting, and the reason I chose the name Iceberg is because when you ask most people about what AI tools do you know, or what AI tools do you use, they'll say, oh, ChatGPT, and maybe some of them will say Claude, but really that is just the tip of the iceberg. There are over 1,000 AI tools just for sales alone that are available right now. So I really decided that I wanted to help organizations understand how it can be applied across the sales cycle and the buyer journey in order to improve an organization.
So why is that? Why? What are some of the reasons behind why so few have adopted? Why are there so many that have still not adopted AI in their go-to-market teams and motions? Because like you said, it seems like, you know what, that's going to be the future. So we better get moving. So what's holding them back?
So I think where we are across the board is we have both conscious incompetence. They know that they don't know about it.
Right.
But more importantly, unconscious incompetence. They don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And what that leads into is really fear of making the wrong decision. In today's market, it's very difficult to find work. Employment's been down for the last 3 months running. So organizations, decisions ultimately are made by the people on the ground. And if they make the wrong decision, then that can have a negative effect on their career. So I think that's part of it. There's the complexity now of the buyer's journey. It used to be that if you had, you could find one champion, they would lead you through. But now you need multiple champions within the sales cycle because the complex buying committees are so large. And when you have teams of people versus 1 or 2 people, that lends itself very well to internal politics. I know organizations like to think they don't have politics, but I've never met one. So see, I always sold in a very much like finding a champion and working that relationship, so we were in lockstep. But when you've got 8 or 9 different people that all have to be champions, and then they've all got their own agendas internally. It can be difficult. Now, I've stopped talking about AI. I'm talking about people, but ultimately, people buy from people. And I think there's been, again, the unconscious incompetence and then some internal headwinds that push people back.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about people because, the subtitle of the channel is human led, right? So I don't think this is not about taking the humans out of it. We may get to a point at some point in the future where, pure commodity transactional items are handled 99% by AI. But at the end of the day, we're still going to be having these conversations with another human being, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's even some almost like a re-ripple effect coming from the industry where people now are saying made by human versus made by AI. So I think at the moment AI is the dark dominant, uh, uh, you know, antimatter that people don't really know enough about to make that informed decision. I think it's holding people back. I mean, even to the point that PwC launched a survey, I think earlier on this year, saying that 55% of sales organizations have adopted some form of AI tools, but only 12% are actually seeing any meaningful returns.
Right.
That's a huge gap.
That's a gap.
Yeah, and there are reasons for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge gap. Well, what are some of those reasons? Why are so few people seeing any kind of return? Because, and by the way, sometimes I've heard numbers even worse than that, but I think that's pretty accurate. 12% seeing some kind of ROI. And at the same time, you've got this fear of making the wrong decision. That's a scary thing. So why the lack of success?
So I think it comes down to a number of factors. I speak to a lot of salespeople who sell, very, very good solutions that drive business outcomes and business results.
Yep.
But they're in front of the decision makers in an organization, and they will say, "Oh, does it have AI in it?" And they'll like, "Well, no." And they're like, "Oh, well, we'll put you at the bottom of the list then." So, as stupid as it may sound, it's absolutely right. So, organizations have really love the idea of investing in AI. A lot of boards are pushing these organizations to do it, but they really don't know what they don't know. It's like walking into, I don't know, Home Depot and saying, "I want to, I need to buy some tools," and they go, "Okay, what are you trying to do?" "Well, home improvement." "Yes, but what are you trying to improve?" "My home." So without context, buying the right AI tool, the wrong AI tool, all it's going to do is make you do what you were doing wrong more efficiently, right? So you have that. Secondly, I think the way that organizations treat the implementation of AI is they'll do one training session. There we go. Here's the AI tool, and then let people get on with it. The successful salespeople and leadership among them will probably use it, but it'll be in pockets. The ones that don't, who are not maybe that successful and almost look at AI as being Big Brother or something to replace their job, will actually go out of their way to sabotage it. So ultimately, when you look at it across your entire sales organization, the ROI is not where it needs to be for those factors.
And I just find that such a shame, really, because that first person intelligence that you can get, and I know what you mean by like the sabotage, right? Oh, I'm not recording my meetings because somebody's going to go and look at them and come back and blame me later, so they really are. They're missing an opportunity because that first person intelligence is possibly one of the most powerful things that you can understand in a buying journey, in a sales cycle.
So it is a paradigm because salespeople, having been a salesperson, as you know,
Yeah.
we're quite lazy people, right? As in, we try and find the shortcut, the way to do, to get the result without putting in as much work. And the successful ones will find a way. Those who are not will typically have sales calls and meet with customers, and then because they're lazy, they won't upload that first party information into a CRM. So now that, hey, guess what? There's an app for that. Now so we have an AI tool that does it for them and will summarize it and be able to say, okay, here were the key points, and almost be able to help the salesperson put that conversation into the forecast and actually make it a better prediction than just typically salespeople who are again a little bit lazy. So I think AI has got a huge opportunity, but again, we can never rule out the human factor, which is
Yeah.
what you mentioned earlier on.
So you mentioned, this unconscious incompetence, which is they don't know what they don't know. So just generally, what have you seen out there? Where are most organizations today in terms of enabling their go-to-market with AI? What kinds of things are they actually starting and thinking about doing?
So whenever I work with organizations, I always try and firstly take a step back and say, look, what's working, what's broken, and what's missing, right? And then identify some quick wins, because I think because of the unknown and the potential fear, and also the unconsciousness of what it can actually achieve, they need to see some quick wins. So we'll generally implement some tools pretty early on, which we know that there's a huge increase in productivity or workflow. So there was an organization that they had quite a large sales force. One of the tools that we identified that could probably benefit them was a tool called Gamma App AI, which helps you create really, really cool PowerPoint presentations very quickly. Now, across the sales force, we calculated there were a certain number of hours that each salesperson would use to create account plans and presentations and pitch decks and this, that, and the other. So being able to implement a tool like that really cut down the amount of work required, and then have a consistency across all the sales reps, was a good step forward. Did it really help the sales process? No, it cut down the amount of efficiency needed,
Got it.
the amount of time needed in order to do things. So we always start small, but
Mm.
ultimately it's about taking a step back and looking at the larger problem, which is, we've got 80% of our revenue at this stage in the funnel and it doesn't go any further. What can we do? It's because we don't really understand the buyer journey. We've been pushing the sales process down the throats of the buyer, and we really need to kind of marry up to them and understand what their buying process is. And a lot of even the buyers don't know what the buying process is. So
You've
it
nailed
gets
it.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely so true that they don't even know internally, and they don't figure that out until they actually get into one, and then they start to see you mentioned it already. It's so many players, right, in these buying committees, and they get, and I'm sure you've heard this too, they get 90% or 75% of the way through their buying journey before even wanting to talk to somebody from the company,
Yeah,
right?
no, absolutely. I remember probably about 3 or 4 companies back, when I took over, they'd have one sales call with the prospect, and then they'd send something like 8 PDFs to them, and I'm like, whoa, like what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you're giving them all the information they need, so therefore that you're just writing yourself out of the script, Mr. Salesperson. You're never going to have a conversation because you've given them enough information to make that decision. So that was, I say, 3 or 4 companies ago. But we are there now, Stu. Like, it is exactly right. People are really in a very, very different position when they actually join with you in order to work out, is this a solution that I need? So those people need to be aware of that and not stop trying to force their own sales process on the buyers.
Yeah, that is so true. You also mentioned something else that hit home is, I think you said like 800, and I think that's maybe even low, but I'll buy it. About 800 AI, like specific AI apps out there for sales today. So I know that we talked about an approach that you have, a diagram to help customers understand where tools might fit and what they need to do.
Yeah.
Do you have that handy? Could you share that with us?
Okay. Let
I'd
me
love to
get you.
talk about that a little bit.
So let's do this.
Okay.
Give me one moment. There we go. Let me know when you can see that.
Got it.
Okay. So for those of you who have been to sales school, you'll recognize the MEDPIC in the center. So MEDPIC is a commonly used
Methodology. Yeah.
methodology. There are a number. So what I did, I took the effort to go and research which tools will help in each part of the sales process.
Got it.
But then, as you can see, Stu, it's really quickly getting okay. There are, I mean, there are some, tools here that pop up once or twice, like Gong and Salesforce Navigator and things like that. But I actually use this as a conversation piece because it's instead of going into Home Depot and saying, which tool do I need? It's like, well, look, you understand what we're trying to work at. And these are just the top 6, right? There are a lot more if the diagram was bigger. So I'll use this as a conversation piece to really work out where in the sales process are you falling down? What's your go-to-market strategy? Are you an organization that's led by RFP response? Are you one that does a lot of cold calling? How is your forecasting doing? What about the demos? Are you having people building relationships? So when you really take a look at the organization's go-to-market strategy and which items are sitting in the funnel and not going anywhere from that 1,000-foot view, then you start to go down to say, okay, I think we can help with this. And that's so important to identify those quick wins. One thing that I loved you guys talking about on the last webinar you did was transformation.
Yeah.
And you're 1,000% right. Organizations need to transform what they're currently doing in order to be successful, especially with AI. Majority of them are not ready. They're really not ready. They're scared to make the wrong decisions. It's kind of funny in a way.
Yeah, it is, and it's painful, right? I mean, it's one of the reasons I was really looking forward to talking to you today because, I preach transformation all the time, and I'm finding you're absolutely right. People are looking for something that will give them a quick hit so that they can literally go up the chain in the organization politically saying, oh, look at me, we put in AI and we got this result, right?
Yeah.
They're not ready to redo their floor plans yet. Or, you've heard me talk about this in the past. I like to call the efficiency gains paving old donkey cart paths, right? So you've got all these paths that used to go from this village to this village, past this spring, et cetera, et cetera. And you're going to pave it, and that'll make it much more efficient. Absolutely. Well, it would also make it much more efficient if you built a freeway. That might be the sort of next level. What I'd like to see, and I'm to your point, I'm not seeing it yet either. What I'd like to see is people start reimagining transportation, reimagining movement, right? Not just paving old cart paths. But to your point, I get it. All right, let's go back to full screen. You can take that one down, and let's talk about just in your experience. You've already mentioned a couple of the reasons, right? Fear of failing, fear of bad implementation. Is there anything else holding people back from transformation?
I think when we start to see a firmer ROI in some organizations, I go to a lot of events, and it's interesting that the mix of people that I see there, I see very, very few CEOs and C-level people. They're usually middle management, and
Yep.
they will go and listen to case studies on how other people are using AI, and I think that gives them a sense of comfort to see, oh, okay, well, if they can do it, we should do it. And it also lights the light bulb above the head to say, oh, do you know what? Maybe we could implement that internally with what we've got.
Got it.
I know it's the old cliche. It's like, well, I'm not going to move forward until I see a case study. But I think having people go out and educate themselves and realizing that they're not the first one through the fence, right? Like this is something that other organizations have used and see value in. I think that's been, relatively important, and because it makes believers out of people.
That's great. So you mentioned to me as well, and this, like, here's the free offer part of the session today. But how do people know where to start? So can you talk to me a little bit about that self-assessment tool?
Yeah, exactly. I've actually gone to the trouble of creating an AI internal assessment. I mean, this is how crazy it is. I get hired by AI sales companies to go in and teach them about AI, right? Because there may be AI built into their solution, and they know all about that and the LLM evolved. But where it comes to actually using AI internally and how are they using it, it is very that scattered, haphazard approach. So I've created, I think it's a 17 question survey. It doesn't. It's a quiz, more multiple choice quiz. It takes 5 or 6 minutes, but it really sort of helps them hone down in the areas. And I think there's like 4 or 5 different categories that it looks at, such as, is your data in one place? Is it complete and is it accurate? Have you engaged the sales organization, and have you shared with them XYZ? So it really kind of does a good job of breaking down where they are, and then really highlighting, based on a personal outcome of where the organization sits and where the main priorities are. So I've actually got a copy of that. If you
Oh,
like,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, put that up. And by the way, audience, we'll put that. I'll make sure that the link to that assessment tool goes in the description of this video, so that you can go ahead and take it on your own. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all, you only have to enter an email address, and that's pretty much it. But
No credit card.
no, completely free, completely free. And I actually used an AI tool for this, I believe it or not, to
Build it.
the survey called Score App, and it actually does a very good job of then creating a customized, personalized report for you, showing where you're strong, where you're weak.
I find this whole idea brilliant, frankly, because what it's doing, and I'm dating myself here, but this is transporting me back to the 1980s when large telecom started to decentralize, right? And all these CLECs started to come up. And I hate to admit this, but I actually did an engagement for and with Canada's largest large telecom company at the time. And we came up with an interesting finding. And that interesting finding resulted in that company actually producing over 50 different offers of how to do your long distance. And they advertised the heck out of it, because our finding was, if you give people too many things to choose from, they're not going to choose.
That's right.
They won't move because there's too much. It's overwhelming. Yeah, I hate to admit that, but it was very successful until, of course, the decentralization happened, and here we are. Thank goodness. We're not paying 56 cents a minute now to call somebody in a town in the next county.
Well, it's so interesting, and I think that ties it all together, because, as you said, if you give people too many options, they get that sense of I don't know what to do. It's
That's right.
almost paralyzed. So that's no different to where we are with AI right now, because there are 50 times 10 tools, if not more. So people don't know which one to get. If it was just one tool, that it would be great, but there isn't. So it's very relevant to what you did before.
Well, thanks for providing that today, Gary, because I think people will get a lot from it. So if you're there, if you're not like deep into a transformational project now, and you're looking for trying to figure out, where do I start? Where do I begin? Please take Gary's assessment, and all of his contact information will be in the description as well. And, Gary, I really appreciate it, because, although it's always great talking with people who believe that all the transformation should happen right now, this is a great grounding in reality and what's really going on. Most aren't ready yet, which is a scary thought, but they're not. So thank you for sharing that opinion. I really appreciate it. You'll find all the links, like I told you, the tools and LinkedIn and all that. You'll find that in the description. And as far as the channel in general goes and this video, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. The algorithm loves that. Please like the video. And oh, by the way, the other thing the algorithm really likes is when you make a comment. And I read them all. So I really appreciate your comments. They're very much encouraged. And so please smash that like button, click subscribe. And oh, by the way, subscribing doesn't mean you're going to get blasted with emails all the time. You can set your notifications, as you know, in YouTube. You can subscribe to a channel without being notified every 5 minutes something's going on. And the only other thing I'd like to mention before we close off is if you'd like to be a guest on the show, reach out to me directly on the LinkedIn. My link is below in the description as well, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. Until next time, be safe, be well, and know that you are appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.